All right, hello and welcome to another tutorial in Maya. Happy New Year to all my subscribers and friends and anyone who watches these videos. Today, let's take a look at something really cool. For the new year, I know that shiny surfaces and metals and stuff are their number one topic, so this is really cool. I'm not going to do a lot of renders here, but what we're after is we're going to create with the MIA material. It's the mysterious MIA material in Mental Ray. We're going to create some really great chrome and gold and some stuff, some shiny stuff. So that's what this tutorial is all about. You might want to go back and watch the MIA tutorial on the physical sun and sky simulation mode. But for this tutorial, we're going to look at how to use that MIA material out of context, so to speak. We're going to take it out of the physical sun and sky mode, and we're going to actually work with it in this just a regular Mental Ray mode. So make sure that you're set on Mental Ray, and go ahead and just open up your properties for Mental Ray, and make sure that your quality is set on production quality, and sort of just check to see that some of these basic settings are looking good. So I've got mine set at custom, and we'll just go from there. You'll notice also that under features, you're going to want to have maybe ray tracing and global illumination on, some final gathering. But for the most part, we'll just use production mode in its default stage. So just to be aware of that, we are using Mental Ray, and that's what we're going to look at. So let's take a closer look at how to create some of these really cool reflections and whatnot with these MIA materials. So I'm going to go ahead and just sort of open up a new project. Let's cancel out of that. You can see where this is my starting point. I just had a couple of spheres. This is a torus. This is a sphere. I just sort of squished them and kind of set them up like that. So that's kind of going to be it's just an example. Really basic, just keeps it really simple. So that's what it looks like, and you saw what it would look like as it's rendered. So let's take a look at how to get there. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new project. I think I saved this as the start. All right, and let's go back to the start. As you can see, I just have a plane, the two spheres, and in this case I added some text. So that's kind of cool. And as you can see, it's going to go around kind of like that. No big deal. Pretty basic, but it's the concept we're after here. And let's take a look at how to get some shiny materials without using your standard blend or anisotropic or another shader like that. So here's where I'm starting, and let's go ahead and I'm going to do a quick render just to show you kind of what it looks like as a quick render. There it is, nothing too big. It's real flat. You can notice it's just a plane and a couple of spheres with the standard Lambert shader applied, and we're on Mental Ray, of course. So that's where we're starting. Now this is where it gets fun. Let's go into the window rendering editor, go to your hypershade, open up that hypershade, and in this case I already have some materials that I made for this project, but I'll start again. So what we're after here is we're going into Mental Ray, and we want to actually look for this MIA material X, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that, say maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and you'll notice that they sort of sequentially number themselves. Because I clicked 4 times, I've already created 8 different materials for this project. So I'll start working with mine at number 9, and then this one down here is number 10, number 12, number 11, whatever. So you get the idea. So I'll work with mine through here. So yours will probably be numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. No big deal. All right, so that's basically creating a glossy surface or something glossy. So let's go back into our project and assign those materials to our geometry. I'm going to move the hypershade over for a second, And in this case, I'll go ahead and I'll just go down and assign an existing material. And I think I started with number 9, so I'll just do number 9, and this one will be number 10. We'll go to this one right here, my A material. We'll go to number 10 and assign that one. And in this case, let's see if I can. I have these parented so that this would actually flow around with this. So I'm gonna unparent these for the moment. Let's just see if we can unparent those. And I'm going to assign this center sphere an existing material, which was my number, what was it, number 10. And then we'll assign this one with number 11. Assign existing material number 11. And then I think I'll do this one number 12 down here, my plane. And we'll go ahead and assign existing material and number 12. All right, now let's take a quick render and see what that looks like. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the Lambert, instead of having a flat quality to it, now takes on a more glossy, transparent, you can see reflections, and it kind of looks like a glossy gray surface. Well, that's perfect because that's what the MIA material is all about. It stands for Mental Image Architecture. It's a term described by Autodesk to describe the material set that belongs with the physical sun and sky modeling node. And we're not using it with the physical sun and sky, so we have to kind of look at some various properties that it's not really designed for and adapt those qualities to, say, other types of lighting. So anyway, that's what that's all about. So now that we basically have some materials assigned to this, let's light this in an unusual way. With these materials, you can light them with basic lights, but the gamma of these objects, or this shader, is sort of optimized for the physical sun and sky system. So we're going to have to do a couple of things. We're going to use image-based lighting to light this, and it's really easy to do, but you have to know where to find it. So let's look at how we start with something like that. I'm going to just close out the render view, and I think I'll close out my hypershade. And let's go to Photoshop, where all of this started. So I'm going to hide Maya. And I thought I was going to hide Maya. Well, I'll put Maya over here, and we'll come into Photoshop. Now in Photoshop, I basically created an image. And this is a Targa image, and if I go to my size, I can check out the image size, which is a 2048 by 2048, and I saved this as a Targa file at 32-bit. So basically it's just a picture, and it's a gradient picture. It goes from black to white, and that's all you need to do. So go ahead and create a Targa image 2048 by 2048, and we're going to use this to light the scene. So you can see where I've got it saved over here. Here's my image right there, and now we're ready to go back into Maya. So with that in mind, I'll bring up Maya, and let's assign that image to the IBL node in Mental Ray. So to do that, just go to your window. Well, actually, let's go to our render settings. And let's open them up right there. And here's my render settings. And you want to go to your Indirect Lighting tab within Mental Ray. And go ahead and click Indirect Lighting. And when it comes up, you'll notice that you have one of two choices: an image-based lighting, or IBL lighting, or physical sun and sky. Well, in this case, I want to basically light the scene with that image that I created in Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. Once you do that, you'll notice that you have a Mental Ray IBL Shape 1 tab. That's what we want. So here's where we assign it that image. So I'm going to go to the image name. I'm going to open up that image, which is generally in my default images folder. And in this case, it's going to be this one right here, the gradient light. And I'm going to open that. And you'll notice that right away, it sort of formed a sphere around everything. I'm going to zoom way out because this is how you see. This is sort of like a gigantic softbox in photography, which would give you no reflections of any kind that sort of reflect the environment that you're in. So you get a really nice clean look, especially when you're dealing with glossy surfaces or metals or gold or silver or whatever. So with that in mind, I'm going to come over here and let's do a quick render. And as you can see, that's what I get. Everything looks a little shiny, and that's cool because we assigned it that MIA material just at default. And we haven't even gotten to setting any of those up yet, but as you can see, we have this background of the image that we assigned to there, and this is just part of the gradient background. But you'll notice where it gives it, some kind of a nice subtle soft lighting, and it kind of matches the spectrum, the full gray spectrum of black to white. So the first thing I want to do is I don't really want to see that in the background. So if you want to get rid of that and get rid of what this this entire say IBL node is, we can just delete or uncheck the primary visibility. And as you notice, it doesn't go away from here, but when I do another render, I'm going to do another quick render. We'll zoom in on that. We'll do a quick render, and you'll notice that this now turns out black, which is really great because when you're compositing in After Effects, you can now have all of that black background to work with, and that won't get in your way. So we're going to get some nice clean look on this on these metal surfaces. Okay, so next step, now that we got that, is I'm going to move that aside, and let's just come and click on, say, part of our geometry, this outer torus, and you'll notice that you have a material tab because we assigned it of material number 9. Yours might be number 1, but anyway, that's where we can start setting some properties. And just like in the physical sun and sky node, you can go ahead and hit a preset right here with your preset button, and in this case I want to choose chrome. Okay, and I'm going to choose Chrome Replace. And in this case, I'm going to click on this center sphere right here, and I think I'll give it a preset of, say, copper. And I'm going to go over there and go to Replace. And if I choose my material X, I think I'll give this a chrome. We'll just sort of, alternate the different materials here. And on this one, on the bottom one, which would be my material 12, I'm going to go ahead and preset that to maybe a copper. Alright, now I'm going to take a quick render and we'll see where we're at. So far, we don't have any lights in the scene. The only thing that this scene is being lit by is that IBL node, or that image-based lighting, that image we assigned to the background. And it's sort of picked up, and now it's giving these materials its color. That is like super cool because you can see we haven't even added lights yet, and we have a pretty good look as far as gold and copper and things go. Now, just as in the physical sun and sky node, if you adjust one of these surfaces, because I have my plane highlighted right here, you want to be careful and look at your what's reflecting what. And in this case, I have my plane selected here. I know that I'm on that material. So I might want to come down and increase my glossiness. Now it's at like 0.500. And if I just increase it all the way up, we're going to notice where this becomes much more glossy, or will reflect any object that's above it, just like that. Okay? So that's really cool. And we haven't even started to add any lights yet, so let's add a light, and then remember that you have all of this stuff to play around with. And generally they don't necessarily look as good as they could right out of the bat, and you may have to sort of establish a camera and assign a shader to it to start fine-tuning this. So that would be the next step, and I'm going to take you through that real quick. So let's come over here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And we'll go back here, and in this case I'm going to just create a light really quickly, and we'll go with just a normal directional light. And I think I'll pull that light, say up, and project it down a bit. And we might move it more. Yeah, we can kind of go with that for the moment, no big deal. But let's take a quick render and see what that light actually did. Before, here's what I had. Or there's before, now here's after. So you can see where it's starting to, that light's making some effect, and that's really cool. We like that. Okay, so now let's go in and create a camera. I'm going to just go ahead and hit create camera, standard camera, and I'll go over here into my panel and let's just look through that camera. And I'll just back off a little bit, scroll out a little bit, and sort of move around here to a place where I kind of want to just take an angle. Let's go right here. And there it is. And here's our camera. Now, let's take a quick render with this camera and see what we have. We're going at it at a different angle, and we've added some lights, and you can see where, essentially it looks the same, and that's great. And now let's add a shader to that camera, because these materials are designed to be a little bit higher in the visual spectrum. Like, they're very bright to very dark. And in this case, we may want to have a shader on the camera. So you can see where let's render. I'm going to go to here to my render window and render camera 1. And here's my camera 1. And that's kind of what it looks like there. Now, once you have camera 1 selected, in order to attach the shader that belongs with this camera, you want to come over into your attributes for your camera shape 1, and there are some mental ray attributes that are under the mental ray drop down menu. And if you'll notice, you have a lens shader option, and if you click on the familiar checkerboard, what it'll do is open up your render node, and you want to look down in this list of all of your mental ray stuff. What we're interested in is an MIA exposure simple. And basically this is just a simple shader. It doesn't have very many controls, so click that and you'll notice that it opens up some parameters. One's a pedestal, one is a gain, one's a knee. And you feel free to play around with these because you're going to have to fine tune these a lot in order to get what you want. I'm going to move the gain up a little bit. We'll do a quick render. And you'll notice that moving the gain up gives you a much brighter image. So, feel free to play around with these, just to be aware of the gain, the knee. You'll be doing a lot of rendering, and you may want to stay small on your renders at first, especially if you're rendering something out later in HD. Just sort of get a good ballpark figure with this method, and then you can move on to fine-tuning it in your mental ray render settings and whatnot. So that's how it's done, okay? And in this case, another thing to kind of be aware of is that your pedestal by default is at 0, 0, 0, 0. And that is sort of good and bad. It doesn't really give you a negative value. And it was sometimes with the pedestal, you may want to set a negative value. I'm going to set my gain and my knee kind of in the center point right there and take a quick render. And then I'm going to show you kind of what happens when you add a negative value to your pedestal. And remember, a little goes a long way in this pedestal setting. Okay, so right here I'm set at 0, but I'm going to set it at a negative value and maybe set it to a negative 0.044, and then I'll take a quick render from here and we'll see what changed according to here. Essentially your pedestal setting is going to crush the black values. It's going to add contrast. And so you can see now we're getting a little bit more contrast in there and whatnot. So that's cool. And in this case, if I do say a negative 0.100. Let's see what happens when I move it over to that. Yeah, so you get the idea. It's getting much deeper in quality and whatnot, and that's pretty cool. So you can keep adjusting your materials accordingly. Remember, you have choices with these materials. If you just choose one on your tab section to whatever it's assigned to, take a look at it. In this case, I have this bottom plane is a copper, but what if I changed the color? Well, I'll go ahead and change it to something like that, and then I'll change the reflection color to kind of be a little bit lighter than that. And let's see what happens now when I do a render. So there you go. You can see where it sort of changed the color of the chrome and the reflections and all sorts of stuff in there. So 1,000,001 possibilities, and okay, I can't believe we got it all in 20 minutes or 21 minutes. The new YouTube time allows me to upload a little bit longer tutorials now. So thanks to my subscribers and to YouTube, we now can go over the 15-minute limit. So I don't know if that's good or bad. I might launch into 2-hour tutorials now. I don't know. So anyway, there you go. I hope you've learned something today, and I commend you greatly for taking the time to watch this and learn this and better your skills and become a better person. And of course, read a book every day, learn something, and I hope you guys have a great new year. All right, so thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.